we're the only ones that's supposed to be here. So all three of us start running toward the lighthouse. She goes in and starts walking up the steps. But as she's getting higher and higher, you can start seeing right through her.
Haunted Michigan. Terrifying tales.
Well, here with Rusty Jones from Central Michigan Paranormal Investigation. What's going on, Rusty? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm well. Where are you at in Michigan right now?
Right now, I'm in Jackson.
All right. Central Michigan, I suppose.
Yes. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your history.
Well, I started this group in 1988 and been going strong ever since. I started it basically by reading a book and visiting some of the locations right around town here, and that just automatically hooked me.
Mm-hmm. And so you've been doing this for quite a long time. So you must have some great stories of some of the stuff that you've investigated throughout probably Central Michigan, but probably beyond too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been as far north as Escanaba. I've been down as far as Tennessee, out west as far as Utah, and as far as east as Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking up something as I was waiting to connect with you. I think I might try to go to the Biltmore Estates coming up here. The Biltmore Estate, I guess. But have you heard about that place?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It'd be a good starter location.
Yeah. No doubt. So tell me about your group. How many people are in it?
Right now, I got about 10 active investigators and about 15 part-timers.
Mm-hmm. And so what kind of places have you investigated around Central Michigan?
Well, one of the best places that we go to is Michigan Theater here in Jackson.
Yeah.
We go there at least once a year, and every time we go there, it's something different we get out of there. So it's very active.
Yeah, I've heard about that place. I was talking with someone last year about that, and she actually got her shirt tugged while she was on the stage.
Yeah. You get a lot of that. You get a lot of like doppelganger effects. To explain that, I had a gentleman that brought his group over with to help us out, and he was down by the stage. He could have swore he heard me ask him to come here from the balcony area. I was outside of the building completely. So, yeah.
What do you think makes that place so active?
Because I think it's, a place that people find happiness, at least for a couple of hours in their life, So everybody thinks that, a location has to be haunted because it's a sad place. Why do we always assume it's sad? You take a place like Michigan Theater where they could lose their, forget out their troubles for a couple hours, makes them happy for a little bit. So why not return to that place?
And so would you say out of all the places in Central Michigan that you investigated, that is by far the most active, or what?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. What other places have you investigated around the area that are active?
We've done the old prison here in Jackson, which is the state's very first maximum security prison. That was built in the 1800s. We've done several locations or businesses here in Jackson. We've been up in Lansing a couple of times to do businesses up there. This Saturday, we're going back to the USS Hudson up in Bay City. Mm-hmm. We're going to be spending the night on that ship and doing an investigation there. So
we might have to touch base next week and maybe and add on to this when you after that experience.
Oh, for sure.
So you mentioned the jail. Now, is that jail the one that's still open, or is that one closed?
That's the one that's closed. They turned it into apartments now.
Oh, okay. So you knock on people's doors and walk in?
No, they still have one of the cell blocks is still there. And they converted that. They took all the cells out and basically converted them into apartments.
Okay. Wow, you can live in a cell.
Pretty much, yeah. They still got solitary confinement there, and a few of the tunnels that would go out to the towers.
Okay.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of activity in some of these old jails, isn't there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a really good story about that. That particular prison is back in the early 1900s. There was a warden that he would do all kinds of crazy things to prisoners, especially if he didn't like you. One of the stories is he took a gentleman like in January, December, took him outside, stripped him naked, and put a hose to him for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, and then just threw him back in his cell. No clothes, no nothing. The great thing about that is a lot of the prisoners that suffered at his hands got word out to the state. The state did an investigation. He was arrested, and he was actually thrown in the same population that he was a warden of, and he didn't last the night. They found his body hanging from one of the rafters.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. What year was that?
Yeah. 1911, I think it was.
Okay, so a long time ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, gotcha. And have you now? They have a prison in Jackson now that's active, correct?
Yes, it's they call it the Cotton Facility because it was named after a gentleman, last name Cotton. But yeah, it's a good sized prison
Yeah.
that's still active.
I spend a lot of time down in the Brooklyn area. Have you investigated anything down there?
Oh yeah, definitely. So you know the Big Boys down there, the Big Boy restaurant?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't spend so much time in the actual town of Brooklyn, but
Oh,
in the
okay.
area. But anyways, I'm just talking about, yeah.
Yeah, we've done there. We've done a couple of smaller businesses there. We did the theater about 25 years ago, and that was a very interesting location. Not a whole lot happened, but it was more personal experiences
Hmm.
that we got. So yeah, we did quite a few in Brooklyn.
I want to say that just talking with you, there's an antique store. I want to say up in Clare or something that somebody said is can be pretty wild. Are you familiar with that place?
Are you talking about the hotel, the Doherty?
No, but tell us about that. Have you been there?
Yeah, the Doherty is uh, quite active, and you go in there for spirits, and you'll still see spirits. Is the joke there? Because they have a bar there. There's actually a lady, and they always say if you want to come to the Doherty, she'll come and see you too. Um, we stayed the night there roughly about 10 years ago, and we were down in the bar area. They had just closed the bar for us, so we could start our investigation. One of my investigators was running up to get a couple extra cameras and actually ran into her, and it scared her so bad that she had to stop for a few minutes and just like, you know, she'd expect to see this entity walking down the steps toward her. So
Yeah.
she's like, wait a minute here.
She had to compose herself. So she comes back and she tells you guys about this. And
Yeah. And we're like, why didn't you get the camera going? She's like, I didn't have them at the time. So that always happens. You see something really good and then you realize you don't have a camera or anything to record it. So it becomes a personal experience.
yeah. So I don't know if you saw the thing I posted about Eloise a few weeks ago. And I've been there 3 times. The last time we caught some audible screams, and as I sit here at this moment, I don't know what that was.
Right.
Have you ever been to that place?
No, I would love to. There for the longest time, the Eloise, you had to go through all the red tape to get in there before the new owner took over. And so you had to go through the government red tape, and once he took over, it's just been trying to come up with the extra funds to do it. Because I think they charge like for a night's like $1,500.
Okay, I got
You
you.
know,
So
yeah.
you said you've been doing this since 1988. So you must have some crazy experiences. Like, what are some of the more crazy experiences? Just talked about the girl that works with you, seeing the woman in the Doherty. What do you have?
I've actually had a pan thrown at me.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we did a house
I'm
up in
not talking
Lansing.
about what your wife has done you in the past, but
Right, right. No, actually, this was at a location up in Lansing. It was a personal residence, and we were sitting there, and the story was the kids were the only one that was seeing this entity, and we got in there the whole night. Nothing was happening. So I was sitting in the living room in a chair, had an investigator. He was sitting on the couch, and I'm like, "What are we doing wrong?" And he's like, "Well, since the kids are seeing it, do something kid related." And this is the first time and only time I've ever tried provoking. And I'm like thinking, okay, great. So I hollered out, "Oh, you want to show yourself to a kid? You must have, been a child molester." And something at that moment told me to move my head. And just as I did, the pan bounced off the wall behind me.
wow.
Yeah.
How long ago was
So
it, stay?
that was about 15, 16 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the last time I provoked.
Yeah, no doubt. So you just mentioned up in that area. Have you been to the Hell House?
I have, yeah.
What'd you think of that place?
Uh, I felt there was more hype to it than actual, stuff going on there.
Okay.
So to me, it felt overhyped for what and I'm not saying it's not haunted or anything like that, but the night that we were there, nothing really happened. Nothing that we couldn't explain.
Right, I got you. So you talk about spending nights in places.
Mhm.
How many nights would you say you spent investigating places over the past 30 plus years?
Oh gosh. Uh, that's a good question.
A lot, huh?
Yeah, you figure we've been busy almost every weekend, so that's quite a few weekends, quite a few nights,
Wait, you do this every weekend throughout the entire year?
Yeah, just about every weekend. This year we kind of slowed down a little bit. We use an old ambulance to carry a lot of our equipment. We use that as the command center, so we can go year round now.
You guys are real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, we try.
I think I saw that ambulance. It's on your Facebook, correct?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And so what do you have coming up? You said this weekend you're going up to Saginaw Bay.
yeah. Bay City in particular, the USS Edson.
Yeah, I've heard
Uh,
about that. Yeah, I heard that's kind of crazy.
oh yeah. We've been up there a couple times. The reason we want to go back is the last time we were up there, uh, we were all in the galley area, and three of my investigators had to use the bathroom that was down on shore. So they started walking toward the back door, where closest to the ramp. They opened up the door and they heard like a scream howl, right? They come running back thinking it was me picking on them. And when they realized I was in the galley, nowhere near that door, they're like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? So we, spent the night trying to investigate to see what was going on. Just a couple of months ago, one of those investigators actually found a video of the same howl, and it claims to be coming from a siren, old mythical mermaid.
Hmm.
So we want to go back up there to kind of see if we can recreate that somehow.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing with that screen that I captured. Well, I didn't capture. It was a girl sitting next to me. She was just rolling video, and she
Uh-huh.
about 25 seconds, about 17 seconds in, there was that scream in the background, and all of us were in the room, and I had friends on another tour upstairs. And there was only about 40 people in the whole building, and I immediately texted to them, "Did you guys hear that?" And they said,
Uh-huh.
they said no, they didn't hear it. So it's like I don't know. It's like one of the crazier things I've ever, caught on video or audio.
Oh yeah,
You guys have a
it's
lot of
amazing.
stuff piled up?
Oh yeah, definitely. We got lots of evidence. We post a lot of it on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. We got a lot of videos out there that I put them up there not to say that this place is haunted, but to have other people tell me what they see. Because if I see something and they don't, that makes me go back through and okay, now I see what they're seeing. Okay, so it's not you know an entity or a shadow figure or anything like that. So it helps me troubleshoot too.
Right. Yeah, I posted that story in hopes that other people would listen to it and maybe almost debunk it. But so far no
Uh-huh.
one's been able to. And obviously if you're not there, that takes away a lot of it. But I didn't post it as like a gag or as like, I
Right.
posted it to have other people kind of listen to it with their own ears from their own angles and see if they could explain it or not.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what you got to do. Um, a lot of people do that on Facebook groups, and it's a great way to get your evidence out there. But also, if people start saying, "Hey, it's maybe not what you think it is," don't be mean about it. Just accept it and say, "Okay, well, I see your point," and move on. You
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've been in this a long time, so you probably know the pros and cons of making arguments or not making arguments.
Right.
And do you know a lot of the paranormal investigators throughout the state?
Yeah, I'm friends with quite a few groups. Let's see, there's a couple in your area, St. Clair Shores, Detroit, quite a few on the west side, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids area.
Yeah. So you talked
Yep.
about having a pan thrown at you, and you just mentioned entities and stuff. So what have you seen?
I've actually, in the whole time I've actually been doing this, I've only seen two entities, full-blown ghosts. The first one I was up in Escanaba at doing a lighthouse, and at that time the Coast Guard was the ones that run the lighthouse. Now they're privately run, and during that time, the lightkeeper's house was there, and so was the lighthouse. They've since tore them all down. for some reason. But when we were there was 4 of us plus the Coast Guard guy, and a couple of the guys went back to town to grab batteries and food for the night, and so it left myself and an investigator and the Coast Guard. While we're sitting there talking, this lady walks out the door. I mean, she didn't walk through the door. She actually opened it up, walked out, grabbed a pan, and she looked as solid as you and me standing here. She walked toward the lighthouse, and I looked over at the Coast Guard. I'm like, you didn't have to have someone reenact. We know what happened when it was a lighthouse. He's like, we're the only ones that's supposed to be here. So all 3 of us start running toward the lighthouse. She goes in and starts walking up the steps, and we get in there, and you can see her walking up it. But as she's getting higher and higher, you can start seeing right through her. And by the time she gets to the top, all you can hear is the pan, making the noise from her walking up the steps. So we watch her to go all the way to the top, and all of a sudden I hear the door behind me close, not thinking about it. And then I get smacked. My one investigator had smacked me, and he looks at me, he's like, you know what we forgot? And I'm like, what? He's like, the camera that's sitting on the hood of the car. I'm like, great. So we go back out, and there's a Coast Guard guy in his car waiting for us. And he's like, I'm sending someone else back. I'm taking off. He did not like that.
So how long did this experience last?
Roughly maybe 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
And you said she picked up a pan. Did she pick up an actual physical pan?
We don't know. We didn't see the pan there at first. So I'm not saying it wasn't there or it was there, because it's one of those ones you really don't notice it when you're just gazing around. So I'm thinking maybe it wasn't there. And it was just part of the whole residual fact.
Got you. So, was at this particular lighthouse, was there any sort of legend of a woman walking around there?
No, in fact, the only thing that we heard about it was every now and then in the house, you would see the lightkeeper actually himself walking up and down the hallways. Nothing in the lighthouse itself, but just in the house.
Mm.
So that's what interested us the most. So we wanted to catch him, and we catch maybe his wife or his daughter. There was no record of a female living there at the time. So
yeah, that's interesting because lighthouses, for some reason, do have I don't know, I guess they have people still stuck there, it seems like, right?
yeah, definitely. Well, you figure even on Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, that's moving water, and that's a great conductor.
Okay.
So any lighthouse would have some type of residual effect on it.
And so that was the one entity you saw. You said you saw another one.
Yeah, I was at a school up in near Bath, not the same school that was blown up in the early 1900s.
Right. Heard about that one too. So what year are we talking about now? It's with your experience.
Right around 98, 99.
Okay.
And we was walking through the hallways, and we see, like, on the corner of our eye, someone standing in one of the classrooms. And we turned, and there she was. She was just standing there, like, at the front of the class. So we're thinking it was maybe a teacher or a teacher's aide. And it lasted maybe 10, 15 seconds, just enough for us to turn around, see her, and she just, like, boom, boom, gone.
Now, did you get that on video or camera or anything?
No, unfortunately. It's again, when you see this stuff, you're just like, oh, cool, I'm catching it. And then after it happens, you're like, darn it, where's the camera?
So when you go and spend a night in a place, are you just constantly running camera and audio and stuff?
Yeah, like this weekend, we'll be running a lot of standstill cameras and using a lot of handheld cameras when we're walking around.
Okay, I got you. And so what other kind of myths or legends from Michigan intrigue you the most?
The Dog Man.
Yeah, tell me about. I've heard about that. So go ahead.
Okay, Dog Man is kind of like the canine version of Bigfoot. It's a mix of human and dog, mostly dog. The only reason they mix it with a human is because it's on its 2 legs rather than all 4s. And it's supposed to be huge, anywhere from 7 to 8 feet tall, and built like, a bodybuilder, basically. And they have this really strange howl scream. If you're out in the woods and you hear like a screaming howl, that might be a Dog Man.
Now, what area of the state is this legend supposed to take place?
Well, I've heard of reports all over the state, but most of it is centered around Muskegon and just north of Muskegon.
Okay. Yeah, because where I live, I hear howls coming from the woods all the time, but those are just coyotes. I assume. Maybe they're not.
Yeah, yeah. You can definitely tell between a coyote and a dogman howl.
Well, I've never heard of dogman howl, so maybe I can't. I don't know.
Right, right.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Anything else in Michigan that
Uh,
intrigues you?
oh, everything. I mean, Michigan is full of haunted locations that, I'd love to get to, like the Eloise. It's called the Sleepaway Hotel in Clare. I don't know if you've heard of the Purple Gang.
Yes. Yeah, because the Purple Gang was down here as well in Detroit. And
Yep.
there's a place down here, a bar called the Thirst Parlor that my friends at the
Yep.
Detroit Paranormal Expeditions have investigated. And the Purple Gang hung out there as well. Tell everybody about them. They were a gang in the 1920s or so, correct?
Yeah, yeah. They were just as popular as Al Capone. In fact, when Capone tried getting his foot in Michigan, it was the Purple Gang that slowed him down quite a bit.
Mm.
He, in fact, there's tales of them fighting up and down the highways, shooting at each other at times. So it was a big rivalry between the two. And the Purple Gang basically owned Michigan. If you wanted anything done in Michigan, that's who you went to, is that gang, and they got it done. Um, the Sleepaway Hotel near Clare is where they would take people to, you know, sleep away rest of their life, basically.
Mm.
So yeah, um, I would love to get up there. There's quite a few places in the UP. There's up near Houghton. There's an orphanage up there. Traverse City. There's the asylum up there in Traverse City. So there's a lot of locations. Like in Muskegon, they have, I believe it's Ironside, the sub from World War II. You can go to. That's another location I'd love to get into. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of locations.
Last year at the end of September, beginning of October, I stayed up at the Birch Lodge in Trout Lake, and I guess it was an old insane asylum, and now it's just, you
Mhm.
can stay there as a lodge. I don't know if they have anything going on there, but it's old and it's a pretty wild building. And I should have asked them if they had anything that's ever happened. That seems like one of those places where guests would stay there and hear footprint,
Oh
footsteps,
yeah, definitely.
stuff like
Anytime
that.
you're dealing with an asylum, and I hate using that term because it really wasn't an asylum. It was basically a doctor's playground back then. Because they could do anything they want to you. And we've all heard the horror stories from the Eloise. And, that's a horror story from every location like that has been an asylum. So you got tortured souls anywhere in an asylum.
Right. Has there been any places that you've investigated here in Michigan that, I mean, even after all your years you've done this, just completely creeped you out or scared you?
Not recently, but I would have to say there's a location. It was a private residence up near Crystal Lake, and that place was so active. I mean, you could walk in and if you're not sensitive, you could actually still feel it. That's how active this place was. And anytime you walked in, it felt like you had to turn around real quick because there was someone standing behind you. You had that type of feeling. And it was, like I said, very active to the point where when I sat down in a chair one time, it felt like someone had put their hand on my leg, like instantly, like a little kid would, to get your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it would go away and come back like maybe 10 seconds in between each time. And it was just like really kind of, no matter where you went, you always had that handprint on your leg for some reason.
Whereabouts is Crystal Lake? I'm not sure if I know where that is.
It is just about half an hour north of St. John's.
Okay.
It's like almost dead center in the state.
Gotcha. So,
Yeah.
just mentioned that being touched. How many times do you think you've been touched in the past 30 years?
Oh, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying every location we go, we get touched or anything like that, but it's because it's a common occurrence, especially if you're willing to let them touch you, as a way of saying, "Hey, I'm here." So,
Hmm. And what would you say is maybe the most frightening time you've been touched, or maybe, if you felt heat or anything like that?
not so much heat, but I remember one time I was doing Michigan theater, and I was up in the balcony. I had a REM pod sitting on the stage, so I was kind of like leaning way over to see this REM pod, and all of a sudden I felt like a hand on my shoulder, and then I heard someone whisper in my ear, "Please sit back." That was a little disconcerting, but it was actually kind of cool. But you could also kind of feel the breath in your ear,
Hmm.
like actually someone really talking. I thought it was someone on my team, and when I looked around, nobody was even close to me. So, and the funny thing of it is as soon as I sat back in my chair, the hand came off.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How many times have you investigated that place?
oh geez, I'd have to say at least 15 times.
Okay.
You know, because there's a couple times we've done it, multiple times in a year. So it's just that interesting of a place.
So, Rusty, where can people find you and your group online?
You can catch us on Facebook at Central Michigan Paranormal Investigations. You can also catch us on YouTube under the same name. And now we have a TikTok, and that's under CMPI.
Okay. And I'll tell you what, email me this weekend or early next week and let me know what happened in Saginaw this weekend. And
Oh, for sure.
we'll get you back on. I'll try to tie this together if something interesting popped up.
Oh, definitely.
All right, Rusty. Well, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, Rusty has made his triumphant return here. You guys spent a night, I should say, Saturday night, the USS Edson, and that's in Bay City. So I emailed you the other day, and I'm like, well, if something cool happens or whatever, let me know, and we'll get you back on here to wrap up this episode. So how was the night?
Very eventful. Very. It started basically as soon as we got right on ship, so and it continued all the way through the night.
Now, how many people were with you?
7 people.
Okay, and did you guys get any sleep, or did you stay up all night?
Some of us got some sleep, some didn't.
So tell us things that happened.
Well, when we first got on the ship, we were getting all our stuff, situated, into where we were going to sleep and our equipment out where we wanted it and everything like that. Well, we were in the galley. That was where we kind of used as like our little command center. We're standing there just getting stuff out. And we know for a fact we were the only ones on the ship at that point. But right above us, you could start hearing like footsteps walking across the deck above us, to where we sent someone up there just to make sure nobody was up there, and nobody was up there.
And this is early. This is still, the sun is still out.
Yes, it was roughly about 6:05 that it started. Yeah. So, like I said, as soon as we got on the ship, it just kicked in. Then it continued from there.
All right. So what other kind of things happened?
Well, throughout the night, we separated in groups, and my group went toward the front of the ship, the bow of the ship, and I had another group that went to the stern, and we met up after like 45 minutes, and they're like, we can't go back down there. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, it just felt really evil. And we started hearing like, people talking. I'm like, well, okay, let's all go back down there and have fun, So we go back down there, and you could tell it was really, it was a different feel than from what like the front of the ship was. It was it was eerie because it was dark, but when you got to the back of the ship, it was a whole different cookie. It was like really, it drained you. That's what it felt like.
Now, were you using any of your devices down there?
Yeah, we had a couple of K2 meters. We had a Ovulus, and we were getting stuff that was very anti-church, which is very surprising, being what that ship was, at one time, and everything like that. So yeah, we got a lot of bit on the Ovulus.
And so you stayed till 9 a.m. Did you get any sleep?
Very little. I kept on hearing doors shut, to the point where I thought it was my other teammates getting up to use the bathroom, because where I slept was right across from the bathroom. And so I get up, nobody was in there, go look on them, and they're all, kind of like in their beds and everything like that. So it's like, Okay, did you guys use the restroom or anything? Nope. And it's like, okay. So I go back and, again, nothing, and like 10, 15 minutes later, hear it again. And the bathroom door makes a very distinct sound when it closes. And that's what I was hearing all night long.
Did you ever think like to like tie like a bell or something to the doors?
You really didn't have to. I mean, it was that loud. You knew it was being closed or opened. So
And
it's very audible.
you couldn't see it from where you were?
No, I had the door closed, and even if I had the door open, it was like my door was like here, and then the bathroom door was like right here. So I'd have to kind of sleep on an angle to catch it.
So did you catch anything on video or audio that you shared on socials?
Nothing on so far. I'm still going through. We left our standalone cameras running all night long, from the time we got on to the time we left. I'm still going through all that. That's 4 cameras, roughly almost 12 hours apart. And so I got a lot to go through still.
Okay, good. So you've been on this USS Edson before, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. How many times have you been? I can't recall what you said.
This would be our 3rd time.
Third time. Okay, cool.
Yep.
And it's kind of the same every time, or?
No, it's actually quite different. Like the first couple times, there's a place on the back of the ship, and it's the woodworking shop when it was active, and they have a hatch there, and they call that the suicide hatch. And the reason they call it that is a gentleman got a Dear John letter while at sea. Didn't want to, be around anybody, so he figured, okay, I know right where this hatch is. I can go sit there, just be by myself for a little bit, clear my head. Well, when he climbed down in there and closed the hatch, he didn't realize it also closed off the airflow. So by the time he realized it, he didn't have enough strength to push the lid open to get fresh air in, and he basically suffocated down there. That's why they call it the suicide hatch. Is he still had the Dear John letter, so they thought he committed suicide.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for filling us in with what you saw and what you experienced on the USS Edson. We'll look at your socials for people who want to follow you and stuff, and check out some of the stuff, and definitely email that to me and let me know if you catch anything cool on those videos.
Oh, I sure will, definitely.
All right, Rusty, thanks for kicking off this season. Appreciate you.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.